And welcome back to Daily Justice. I'm Dave Erickson. Our topic today is breaking up without blame, grounds for divorce in Washington State. My guest is Mark Hodgson, family law attorney here in Spokane. What are the legal grounds for divorce in Washington, and how do they differ from other states, Mark?
I think the best way to start with that question would be, how do they differ from the past? When we go back to like turn of the century, Victorian era, I think grounds for divorce were mainly for men. Until very recently, women could not open a checking account in the United States. They couldn't necessarily buy property without their husband's permission. These were all things. And so you've seen divorce law kind of go through it. And one of the fault divorce, so was there adultery and things like that. That's what we get away from in Washington State. So grounds for divorce in Washington State, I no longer want to be married. That's it. Either party, period. You have an absolute right to a divorce. Nobody can stop you from getting a divorce. And there is nothing they can do to stop you from getting a divorce if you don't want to be married to someone. Now, there's different equitable principles with property and things like that that may look like fault, but as far as fault for the marriage or the union going apart, the courts don't care. Good example would be like infidelity. That's very prominent in our society. It's quite common. The courts don't care. You could have, quite frankly, relations with one person. You could have relations with 50 people throughout the marriage. It does not matter. It doesn't matter to property division, and if it didn't affect the kids, it doesn't really affect that, which sometimes makes my life a lot easier because I don't have to deal with the salacious details of someone's sex life. You know, it does not matter. And so I oftentimes get to say that to people who maybe weren't behaving as well as they could have. It's like, good, it doesn't matter. Move on. There's no shame.
There's no boxes you have to check on, here's the reason why. It could just be, we want a divorce.
Yep. I would like a divorce. I no longer want to be married to you. And that's it. That's it.
Does the other person still has to agree to it, right?
Nope.
No, they don't have to have the paper signed?
Nope, they don't have to agree. You got to go through the process if they don't want to, and that is very common where one person wants to get divorced, the other person wants to stay married. And let's be honest, who wants to get divorced? I mean, nobody. It's a horrible process. So, but the nice part is, and this happened a lot in domestic violence, where if you had like a fault divorce and you couldn't prove fault or something like that, it could be very problematic with domestic violence. It could be problems with, child custody or something like that, where you're trying to prove that somebody did something wrong so you can get out of a marriage. Here it's Washington State. You want out of the marriage, you have every right to do so.
Is that unique to Washington?
It's not unique to Washington. Several states have it. I don't remember off the top of my head which one, but there are still states with fault divorce.
So can you go between fault and no fault, the systems and how they impact maybe proper division or custody?
Well, I can only really speak to Washington because that's really where I've practiced, so I've not really dealt in a fault state divorce. But, when we look at something like a good example would be like if you are married, you've been married 30 years, there's no children in the marriage, and somebody's, maybe had a bunch of affairs and they, really drank a lot and they decided they really like to use heroin and all those things. And well, they still get the same property division. That's equitable. They still get, as long as they didn't waste the estate or do anything crazy like that, their bad behavior doesn't really affect property division. Whereas with children, well, if you're on heroin and you're using drugs and you're an absent parent because you're having affairs and things like that, if you can draw what's called a nexus between your behavior and your parenting, that can have an effect on your parenting.
Are there exceptions to where fault is considered?
I don't know if there's legal exceptions. I think there are things that could look like exceptions, such as a good one would be marital waste. A great example would be like, okay, I'm going to stay in the house while the divorce is pending, and you don't pay the taxes and you let the roof go to heck and there's a leak and it, creates everything. Then you can be held responsible for, damaging the property and not taking care of it. I think Washington expects you to have what's called a fiduciary duty to the other person, meaning you will look after them before your own interests. And such as if you have a house that's both of yours and, you don't like this person anymore, so you let the house go to hell or something like that, then you could get in trouble that way. But as far as fault is concerned for the divorce, I don't really see a legal exception.
Breaking up without blame. Mark, thanks very much. For more expert legal insights or to get trusted help with your situation, simply visit HodsonLawOffices.com or call the number on your screen to schedule your free consultation today. There's also a direct link below this video.